To me, it was delightful. Honest to goodness village. There were brick walks that the Village Improvement Society built. Then they had oil lamps on the streets. Nearly everybody in town had half to 1 acre of ground. It was just a delightful atmosphere. I still can't get over it. I still say, I'm going to the village. Everyone in Falls Church used to have a front porch. I would love to just sit on my front porch watching the world go by, or just being still.
Hi, I'm Mark Coupard with Hemphill & Coupard Architects and Builders, and I'm here today on the porch of Kyle and Deidre Armstrong's house, and used to previously be known as the Proctor House, and was a very publicized move from another location, and then you all bought the house after the move. How did you find out about the house?
Well, we had just come back from overseas, and we were looking for a house, and we were driving past and happened to see it a few days after it had been moved, and it was up on rails. And we thought it was from the look of it, it looked like it had been prepared to move off someplace, and we were just very interested because we were looking at houses. So we called the number just to ask the realtor, who was Marilyn Kay, did they have other old houses that they were doing this to? And we were interested in buying in the city. And she said, no, this one had already been moved, and that's when we began talking to her about it.
But you knew the house in its previous location, is that true?
I lived here for about 3 years, from '87 to '90, and I was living in Arlington actually, but I used to drive past all the time, and I would see it kind of in passing because it was across the street, and it was down below the grade of the street off, and so watching traffic, I'd glance over and see it, and I thought it was a neat house, but it was never lit up, and I never could stop. I always wondered what they were going to do with it, and then when we saw it again, I didn't actually recognize it as that house. We had been gone for about 7 years.
It was quite a show when they moved it, and there's been considerable work since then. This is quite an undertaking. I guess you must really have a passion for older houses. This is, as you know better than I, this is a lot of work. What have you discovered since you've been here?
Well, when we first started working on it, of course, the porch was in worse shape. The boards were in very good shape, but the curved beams were both rotted away, and we had to replace those. And we built some space actually underneath the porch because it had been all dug out. So we had to take up all of the porch boards. But the columns weren't as they appear today. They were actually square. And been boxed in probably in the 1930s when they did a renovation and turned it into some sort of a rooming house. And
yeah, that's my image of it. And it was just the whole house was kind of sheathed and boxier looking, and now it's just you've really set it free. It really looks beautiful.
And when I was doing some work on actually rebuilding the beams, these just didn't look right. The boxy columns didn't look right to me, and so finally I just decided they may not be the original, and so I got a pry bar and I pried one open, and we found these columns underneath. There were 4 missing, so we had to have those replaced. And when we got that far, we started looking at this beam, and it turns out that was also the beam that you see here is not the original. We've pried it loose on one side and also on the other in the process of putting the new columns in. And this summer, one of the goals we have is to take it all loose and replace the spindle work, because it used to have a spindle work that ran around the porch. There was no rail. You can see the square doesn't come down or come up high enough to support a rail, but you can see the outline in all of these porch posts where they had a rail horizontal here, and where we've removed the old beam, you can see the new beam. You can see on the old beam the paint circles from the spindle work that it had.
Which in general, Victorians like this have a lot more detail than was evident in those pictures. And then you have a picture of it a long time ago, kind of in its glory, and where it's headed again, and it's a beautiful house.
Thank you.
It really is. Of the people that lived here, have you run into any of the people since you moved here? It's a very prominent location. As I said, you all weren't in on it, but it was very, very well publicized and a somewhat contentious move. But I think it belongs here. It feels really good here to me, and it really helps out the street and the fact that you all weren't in on it. But a house like this was saved is a great start to you all's life here, I think. Well, since you moved into the house and when you're not working on the house, how do you use the porch?
Well, today, myself, Kyle, and our 4 children got out on the porch and we had hamburgers, had a little picnic. Whenever the 4th of July celebration got rained out, we turned the music on the porch, and Kyle had gotten some glow sticks, and my children danced to the music and swung their glow sticks around all over the porch. My 2 daughters like to choreograph and make up songs. And so they'll come out here and tap dance and ballet and do all sorts of creative things, and they rope their brother Daniel into doing it too. Mm-hmm. So we wait for Daddy out here for him to come home from work. We sing out here together. Let's just do a lot of nice family things.
Do you ever hang out in period dress as you did in the introduction to this segment?
Oh, yes, we do. Okay. In fact, we've had Arbor Day out here. The park is right next door, Frady Park is, and we've served lemonade from our front porch and had the Victorian Society over, and that's fun as well. But it's not the same segment that's at the beginning. It's not the same porch that's at the beginning of going to the village.
Right.
That's a different home. That's a home on Columbia.
My kids know that I work with Dave Eckert on the show, and they've asked me before if that hat you're holding is Dave Eckert's, but that's not Dave Eckert's.
It's not Dave Eckert's. No, it was given to me by my grandmother. It was a great aunt of mine.
Great. Well, you look great. It's very convincing, and I think it's a great start to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Back to some of the details you've encountered as Kyle, you've done a lot of the work yourself here, I understand, and what sort of interesting porch details have you come to know?
Well, as I said before, we had to remove a lot of the porch boards to be able to build actually space underneath that comes out from the basement. And when we did that, we noticed that a lot of the substructure were 4x6 beams, and then they ran out lengthwise, and then laterally along the porch they had 2x8s and 2x10s that were very long, and rather than fastening
with a nice slope that serves to get the water out.
They were set on a slope, and rather than fastening them with nails, they actually notched the wood and kind of dropped it in place to where it was a dry joint. And when the builders that were pulling the old flooring up looked at it, they were laughing because of how poorly the work had been done. And one of the things I asked them was if they had built any decks that had lasted even 20 years, and nobody could say yes, but this had been here for 100 years, so that I guess it answered the story. We also, when we were putting things back, had to replace a few of the supports for the porch posts, especially the ones that were new. And I've been reading some articles recently. We just built it back kind of the way it was, but I've been reading articles in Old House Journal, and they talked about the bottom of the porch post, how they started building them up so they didn't let water wick up off of them and let a lot of air through to dry them out. And they had kind of, rather than a nice decorative piece around the front, they'd run the porch boards all the way out and then just put a very gentle rounding on them to give them more surface area on the end grain so that it dried up faster. Where they had built out and actually put a kitchen on the other side, a little kitchenette for one of the 2 apartments on the first floor, they had leveled the floor, and we found that when we were rebuilding some lattice work, before we could build it on that side, I had to actually cut away some of the brick columns that had been built up so I could lower it down, because this slopes about 3.5 inches from one end to the other just to shed water. Mm-hmm. Those are the sort of features that the builders put into this to make it last as long as they have.
Yeah, I'm sure it's quite an education. You start pulling things off, and there's discoveries, and I'm always wondering what you're up to. One of the nicest things about this, doing this segment for me, is that I actually get to see some of these houses that I've driven by for years, and hopefully I'll get a tour out of this a little bit later on the inside of the house. And it's a house that's got enough stories to, merit certainly a whole evening of talking about it. I'm sure you guys have sat out here on this porch and had nice evenings with guests, and it's a pretty logical thing to talk about, I would think. And you've encountered a lot of great details, and on the other side of the porch, you're laying out a mosaic from some tile that you'd acquired somewhere else, and I really applaud you all for taking this so seriously and doing it so correctly and historically correctly. Correctly is however you choose to do it. But this is a great place to be, and I hope you all are enjoying living here, and hopefully you'll never be done, but you'll.
Well, it's been taking so long, I'm thinking that we're going to become a part of the history of the house, just the work being done on it.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful place, and you mentioned your kids earlier. Do you want to maybe bring them out and
Sure.
so we can meet them and say goodbye?
Okay.
All right.
It's time. Oh, come on, Daniel. It's time to wave at the camera.
Did you see me waving to you?
No, we didn't. Maybe the camera did.
From way up there.
Where are you?
I was waving.
Well,
Sit there.
Come on, face this way so y'all can be seen.
It'll only be a second.
Okay.
all right. Well, thanks for having me over. I hope to, like I said,
Everybody wave
continue
to
this
the
tour
camera.
inside, and
Thanks for coming.
bye-bye.
Bye. Nearly every street in Falls Church was arched over with trees. You walked under a bower. That's what made Falls Church so attractive.
Hey, Barbara.
Hi, Dave. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I like the rain.
Me too. And it just is stopping. It's still a little dark outside, but we're going to be seeing a lot of sunny day on this show today. While we're talking, the audience is going to see some sunny pictures of what kind of tree?
Kyananthus, our white fringe tree.
Fringe tree, also known as
Old man's beard.
Old man's beard, and flowering ash.
Right. Even though it isn't an ash.
It is not an ash, no, but it is a beautiful tree. It's a small tree,
Right.
and it's a native. But we're at the northernmost border of it.
It's a southeastern sort of tree, and then there's little teeny pockets in Pennsylvania, but this is pretty much the northernmost reaches for.
So as we have global warming, warming, we'll still be able to grow it here.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, now we're in the background, way in the back of that red car back there. There's a fringe tree.
All right. There's a group there, right?
There's a group. There's three of them near the
Great.
police station. We're at the community center at the City of Falls Church right now, and
Soon
looking
to
over.
open community center.
Yeah, maybe open by the time they see this.
Good.
And the June 16th, and the City Hall is in back of us, and that's where the first one that we see today is. And tell me about the Kyananthus virginicus.
Well, because it is a small tree, it's a wonderful tree to plant in places. It tends to be very like a large shrub. It's very multi-stemmed, and it has this white flower which occurs right about now. It's just to finish its peak time, and we're looking at mid-May when we
Okay.
had the flowering. Early May to mid-May, and of course it depends on the spring. This year we had sort of cold, hot, cold, so
Right.
I think the durability this year was really good because we did have the cool weather. The
And
blossoms
it was the
stayed
best
very-
blossoms I've ever seen this
Yes,
year. The very,
yes.
very best, and the audience will be seeing that. Now
That's why they call it the old man's beard, because of all the white that's on it. It does look
yeah, I'm
very...
beginning to understand that a little bit.
We have a personal demo here.
And we're gonna one of my favorite fringe trees in town is over at Thomas Jefferson
the
Elementary,
school,
or
right.
TJ, right in that patio.
Right. And there's a grouping, I think, also over by the butterfly garden.
That's right, on the other side of the school. And now the one at the patio was planted in 1993 to honor Hal
Silverstein.
Yes. Silverstein. That's right, and that was honoring his years of work with trees, and he wanted a fringe tree because it was Thomas Jefferson's favorite tree.
Now, I heard the willow oak was his favorite tree, but I could be wrong.
Well,
Maybe he had
Thomas
many
Jefferson, he had
favorites.
many favorites, depending on who was doing the talking.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Or the
So-
writing.
Right, yeah. So anyway, he wanted that tree planted, and we did, and that was a nice ceremony. You have a little plaque there. And the one in the back, the largest one by the butterfly, was for my wife, Annette Mills, because she started the butterfly garden back
I
there.
remember that.
And then we planted a lot of other babies around it. And
Right.
so it's
turning
really
into a
nice.
grove.
It's really nice, yeah. Now, another place that we have is right here in Cherry Hill Park.
Right.
Not only around City Hall, but right next to the Cherry Hill Park sign, there's a beautiful specimen we planted, I think in 94, no, actually it might have been 1993, the same year as Hal's tree, because Barry Bushau and I took turns wheeling that tree in a ball cart, a tree ball cart, up East, no, actually it was Park Avenue during the Memorial Day parade. It was,
Oh,
it
that's
was
right,
in the
I remember
parade.
that, yes.
And we took turns. I let him wheel it where it was the greatest incline.
Right.
And then I took over where it flattened out, you know.
Because he's tall. He's tall. He
He's
has
stronger
better
than I am.
leverage,
He's
right.
stronger than I am, actually. And so anyway, then we took it up and planted. A whole bunch of people, you know, dove in with us and planted it, and it's turning into a great tree. Well, let's see, where's some others? There's actually some more
Over
down.
by the bridge that goes over Route 7 where the bike
That's
trail
right.
is, underneath
That's-
of that,
that's right
where
there.
there's that white garden of natural native trees.
Shrubs, actually.
Shrubs.
It's a president's garden. The Village
Right.
Society has a garden there. It's honoring all the past presidents of the society, and that's another story for another
Yeah,
day.
right.
And then, but one of the trees that have white flowers is the fringe tree, and there's
Right.
quite a few of them in there.
Right.
And they're not quite up to speed yet, but they're coming along. That's the worst soil in the whole wide world because that was a railroad bed.
Right.
Now we just planted some at along Lincoln Avenue for the neighborhood tree program. I
Oh,
should have worn my
great.
shirt today.
Yes.
But you know, they're great trees to plant underneath telephone or electric wires, I should say. You know, the kind that go along the street, because you don't want to ever plant a large tree. And fringe tree is one of the favorite trees to plant under there because they'll maybe grow 15 feet,
Right.
something like that.
And they're widely tolerant of the pollution, the soil, different soil types, and they're really sort of flexible trees, shall we say. You know,
And they're
they
very
can-
slow
they can
growing.
handle it, yes.
Very slow growing. So agonizingly slow sometimes. And but the people are real happy because just after we planted them, they bloomed. And so that, you know, people just thought, oh my goodness, this is the greatest tree because it's like 2 days after we planted them, this gorgeous blooms came out.
That always makes people feel good, like they're doing something right when they get blossoms.
Exactly right. Well, I guess one thing a lot of people don't know is every tree has a blossom.
That's right.
Every single tree.
Whether you see it or not.
Exactly.
is when
Some
you
of them
know.
are very small.
Yes.
And a lot of people buy their trees because of the flowers, but no matter what the tree, the flowers aren't on that long.
Right.
No matter what it is. So you should buy a tree for more than just its flower.
Right.
Let's see, now where else? There's another place there's a fringe tree.
Cavalier.
Cavalier
Park.
Trail Park, that's right. And right at the entrance by the parking lot.
Right.
And there's a sign. They for some reason don't have the Cavalier Trail Park sign, but they have a little sign that says Native Wildflower Garden or Butterfly Garden there, something like that. And so the tree is right in back of that. And that's just starting to
To come around.
come around. But now we said that every tree has a flower. Every tree has a fruit also, not
Right.
an edible fruit. I mean, it might be a cone,
Right.
you know, or a legume.
Right.
But tell me, what do you know about the fruit of the Chionanthus? I
Yeah.
never can pronounce it. The fringe tree.
The fringe tree.
Yeah. What's the fruit
It's
like?
a multiple fruit. It's really pretty. It has a very nice dark blueberry sort of look to it. And it comes down and there's a separation so that it almost looks like an open dropping of grapes. I mean, if you'd taken 30 grapes out of a grouping, it would sort of look like that. And the birds love them.
That's great. So
Yeah,
all
but
bird lovers.
unfortunately they're a little inconspicuous to the passerby because the foliage hides many of the berries.
Okay, but the birds know they're there.
Oh, yeah.
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 You'll get some good
They
birds.
pretty much depend on them, I think.
And when do those come out?
They come out generally,
September, I think,
right,
isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
after flowering, much when many things will have acorns and that sort of
So actually, that's a good time for migratory birds.
Right.
I mean, you know, and a lot of times people plant a lot of plants from like Europe or from Asia or Africa, and even though they may have food sources for birds, they don't come out at the right time for the migratory birds.
Right.
And it's interesting how nature evolved in a certain way, of course.
That's
And
why
so-
native trees are so important.
Yeah, and so if we were caring about the birds, would really be planting native trees. that have-
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, and fringe tree is a real
Ensuring
good
the
one.
cycle.
Yeah, right. Well, I hadn't heard of a fringe tree until just, I guess, in the early 90s, but now I'm starting to hear about it all over the place. I think it's more readily available in nurseries, isn't it?
Right, and it's a little more, it's adaptable, so it does grow
Yeah.
in a lot of different conditions. You know, the yellowwood, which I think we talked about earlier, is not that easily available, and it is difficult to find, but you can request it, and often someone will get it for you.
Well, I think a lot of people are now looking for smaller trees. That's a big deal. I mean, it's because of wires overhead and smaller pieces of property. As we get bigger and bigger homes
Right.
and smaller properties. So I think that fringe tree would be a real good thing
choice.
for them.
Yes.
Now it's called fringe because I've heard of a number of different reasons. And what have you heard?
Well, just because of the way the flower is, that the bark is a little different than the yellowwood, which we were talking about earlier. It is silvery, but it does have furrows sort of in it.
The bark does, yeah.
But I mean, I would think it's just basically, because of the flower, it
Like
creates a fringe
Yeah,
look.
Surrey with the fringe on top.
Exactly,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
I've heard that was the main one. The other reason I heard is it grows on the fringe also of sun and shade. It can
Right.
take both sun
Right,
and shade.
Sun and shade,
But a lot of times it's long streams.
right, and ponds.
And
yeah.
ponds, and it's right on the fringe between sun and shade, and also between water and dry
Right.
areas. So it grows on the fringe. So I guess it's fun to be on the fringe, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah. Fringe tree.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Barbara.
Uncle George used to take me down to Mankin's Notions and Dry Goods, a corner store at Broad in Washington, where the office building is now. She always had candy, which was something we couldn't have at home. It was a great treat for me to go to Mrs. Mankin's store and have those marvelous penny candies. Uncle George used to carry me down to the store and get them for me. Mother didn't approve, but he did it just the same. I enjoyed it.
Hi, we're here at Greenscape at 130 North Washington Street. Everyone knows where that is. They don't even need a sign. Let's go inside. Hey, doing great. Come on in. I've known Barbara for so long. How long have you been here?
In Falls Church, 15 years, across the street 3, and here 12.
So you're the oldest business?
Oldest person probably too.
No.
No, I think French's have been around longer here.
Yeah. You can tell we're right on North Washington Street. One of my first questions is that a pig
No,
or a frog?
that's a frog.
It's a frog that looks like a pig or
It's
a
a-
pig that looks like a frog?
He's just fat.
I know that feeling. Oh, well, should we go inside? You can
Sure.
show us some of your wonderful
Sure.
stuff.
Sure. Well, the front of the store always has the holiday of the moment in it, and we carry a lot of holiday things, so that's usually the first thing you see. And lots of flowers.
I see lots of pigs, too.
Yeah. Well, we have, people love animals and flowers and plants. It sort of goes together. And so we always have things like that for the garden. They like that sort of thing, so I do too.
Yeah, I always like your cows,
Yeah.
especially the famous one that disappeared. And,
From the Salisburys, yes.
right.
They've been looking in the police reports for that. But we have a lot of things that attract people at night. We try to do the windows so it changes with each holiday. And right now we rotate our stars, which are also a big attraction because we leave them on at night, and the people that go to the theater always come in and say, oh, those are really cool, you know. So we sell a lot of those to the young people especially.
So being near the State Theater, has that helped business?
Oh,
or-
yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Different group of people. They come from all over. And different artists, of course, attract different audiences.
Well, I know this is a gathering spot, and I know the Chamber gathers in probably their biggest mixer of the whole year, right before the holiday season, December.
At Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing that a while.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
The store is basically a home and garden sort of thing. So anything we feel is appropriate, and we change it around a lot. We change the store pretty much every 2 weeks. We get boxes every day, so we have a lot of standard routine, sort of everyday things, but most people like to come in every once in a while and just check all the new stuff that comes out.
Show me some of your favorites.
Oh, well, this duck stuff is really great. This little hat, I'm not sure you can wear this. It's certainly an attractive color for you, Mike.
Oh.
Get a load of this. This is a cute little baby.
I used to have a rubber ducky.
Yeah, and that one actually is a bath stopper, so that it floats so you can find the bath stopper. Here.
No, I'm not putting that on.
Why not?
I'm forced to.
Come on, Mike. It's
My
early in the
head's
morning,
too
but
big.
go ahead. Try it.
My head's too big.
That's a good look
Now,
for
what
you.
is this for?
It's a good look for you.
I'll do.
It's for baby hat. It's a baby hat. We have this whole duck thing. We have a duck umbrella with the duck handle. That's a big popular item. But a lot of people
So you mean
like
ducks
to get.
are big now?
Well, no,
over-
it's a good baby gift.
Oh.
And we
And
carry
it's
the whole
different.
theme through. Yeah, it's not something you find in a lot of the department stores. And that's another thing we really work hard on. I go to shows in San Francisco and the New York shows and pretty much try and find things that are unusual that people can't find anywhere else. And then we carry a little bit of home and garden. Like I said, here's a little bit of home stuff. We have handkerchiefs, because the first time I went to try and find some handkerchiefs at Bloomingdale's and some of the stores at Tyson's, and I couldn't find any handkerchiefs that were less than $20. So I said, that's that, so I bought some handkerchiefs.
That's great. That's great. I know
We
you-
have, we carry the Times Limited, which is a great fragrance line. We found that one out in Colorado, although it's made in Minnesota. And we're real happy with this. And we carry some French products over here that are good home. This is a home care line, and then these are body products. Sell a lot of that. We always have fun soaps. The people come in and they'll want to make a basket for a teacher or something. And so some of the kindergarten children will get like a funny soap. And we have a flag soap, which I'll
that's
give you
great.
one. This is
Oh,
great.
thank you.
Yeah, put it in the bathroom in the office. It's fun.
There we go. That's great.
Smells good too.
Smells patriotic.
Then we have candles from South Africa, which are popular, and some handmade papers, and just, and then some more 4th of July things around the
What's this?
counter. This is just a decorative box that's very flashy. If you're really, you could make this into a purse if you're going to one of those fancy 4th of July get-togethers. People like to carry a clutch, and this makes a good clutch. We also have some neat purses from a person that used to work for us. She has a company called Upala Bags. There was a similar one featured in the Try It section of the Post, but she makes these out of old cigar boxes, and I want you to see the inside of these. She takes
that's
findings.
beautiful.
Isn't that pretty? She puts paper on them, she finishes them, and sort of a decoupage look in a way. And each one's different,
Oh, wow.
but has a really wonderful fragrance. But guess what?
What?
No cigar. Isn't there a line like that? No cigar?
No cigars.
Close but no cigar.
That's it.
Here we go. So,
That's-
and then we have, interesting sculptures by artists that we've, come across in our days that we know, and it's just really fun to,
And I see you have a lot of clocks
oh yeah, we
with
like
different
clocks.
cities on it.
Yeah, these are, this is a company out of Berkeley in California, and they really do a nice job, and they've just come out with whole new lines of children's clocks now too. Then we've got a wonderful, this is sort of a fountain area here. This one here is sort of a Western fountain, and you hook the water back here, and the water comes up through here, but it's made with
Oh, that's
findings. Isn't
neat.
that cool?
That
Yeah, a lot
is.
of the men like this.
Yeah,
so
that's-
we had this up here for Father's Day. Sort of funny and whimsical. We like to have a lot of whimsy. It's really good. And we've got things like this horse up here, which is made out of recycled tires. This is from a gentleman up in New Jersey who has been doing this for a while. We have a motorcycle and a bull.
This is gorgeous.
Well, there's a lot to look at. I mean, we really could use a bigger space, but it's just it's too much work to move it all. Then we make garden baskets. That's probably one of our biggest things. We'll go out to the garden and I'll show you more of that. Oh, by the way, mentioning holidays, I guess we should probably take a look at the Christmas room, which is also our receiving room when it's not holiday. This is a very fun stop for all the kids. and the parents alike. And this is our, what we call our Department 56 room, and we are Gold Key dealers. We've been doing this so long that we get special awards for, you know, carrying it year round and such. People can still come in here and get things, but it's a little more difficult for us to, so we just leave the lights on like this. We don't have it all up because we just don't have enough storage to put all our receiving in.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, but I started doing this in August.
Wow.
And it takes me about anywhere from 800 to 1,100 hours to redo it every year.
But it's kind of fun, right?
Oh, I love it. My dad was a big railroad train sort of man, so it sort of connects me with my dad.
That's wonderful.
Which is nice. Now up here is where we have all of our plants and containers, and that's another thing we're really pleased that we have such a wide variety of really classy sort of different containers. So if you're looking for something that's special color accent, you always find. And then we have really nice tropical plants we get from all over, and baskets and stuff like that. Lots of tools.
What's this?
That is a sign holder that you put in your yard here. You put
says
this in your
keep out.
yard. Well, you can put down
Stay away.
your welcome sign. You can drop one of these in here, but it helps it have a face on it.
See,
so you
that's
don't
how
have that
we're
connection.
different. I want stay away and you want welcome.
Well, we can put that on there for you. We do a lot of our own work here, so if you want a special inscription, we have blank ones that we can write on them for you and do all that. Because a lot of the people here are very artistic. We're very fortunate.
We can tell.
Yeah. Oh, we have decorative brooms, you know. These are made in Mexico. They're kind of cool. So if you need inspiration to clean, there you go. Then we have all kinds of garden signs and watering cans that are fun and just wonderful. These are wonderful things that are made up in, I'm probably using that word too much, but I really like these. These are made in, these are California product, and they're called line lights, and there's like 15 different varieties, and they're all these beautiful decorative lights, and we're going to have those hanging in the window.
Neat.
Aren't they cool? They go over, your light cover goes over your light, and these are the Marrakesh ones, but they shine from the inside, and they just radiate all these different colors.
That is neat.
Yeah, they're very well done, and they have several styles here, and we just haven't had a chance to get them out. It's been really busy. It's been a gorgeous spring and summer, so we've been very fortunate being very busy outside. So we have, let me just show you some of the unusual things that we have outside. Lots of cool tools that we've all tested in the field, as they say. Cactus.
Notice you have a lot of frames.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of unique frames.
Yeah, we like frames. And then here's sort of our beige earth tone pot area.
Bird houses.
Yeah, lots of bird houses. I want to show you one in particular. I forgot to show you this one. We have bluebirds, and this is my favorite. I love this one.
You know, that looks very much like our
great?
city council numbers. The before and after.
I didn't say
Just
that.
kidding.
I didn't say that. And then we have flying pigs and elephants and cats, and then we have these hummingbird feeders that are chili peppers, which are very popular. And we really enjoy our bird things. Then we have the bird houses that are made from the seeds, which are very pretty. You see those in a few places. But most of all, the iguana is the big seller. Here's this big guy. I don't know if you can see him. He's sort of cute.
These are gorgeous.
They fun?
Yeah, those are fun.
And we have our little hand-did bird home thing up there. And then we have these, which are not made anymore. These are made in Charleston, South Carolina, and by a company called Polly's Perch. And basically, she just wore out, and she sold her company, and now they're going to make a similar product in China. But these are all painted in South Carolina now. So we bought
Those
her
are
out of everything she
gorgeous.
had left because I really like them, and I didn't really like the other product that they've come out with as an alternate. So this is all we're going to have of those. Anyway, here's my baby out here is our flowers, which were
Wow.
We're very fortunate that we have so many people that work here that love flowers. And they just, you know, they groom them. We really take good care of our flowers, and they're extremely healthy. We have a lot of customers who come and tell us how ours really do so much better than other people's because we do a lot of fertilization and stuff, so that when they go in the ground, they've got all that energy, and they just can't wait to get started. You know how it is after vacation, you know?
I know we've just scratched the surface, but we're running out of time.
Oh, are we? Okay.
And I welcome everyone to come on down to Greenscape for that unique present. Let me see, teacher's gift, Father's Day, holiday decorations, flowers, garden supplies. whatever. Come on down and see the wonderful, unique gifts. Thanks.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I loved going to the village. Everybody knew everybody. I would say, "Hello, Mrs. Brown," or "Hello, Mr. Hawkshurst," and they would all know me and my kin.
Well, we're here today with one of Falls Church's most long-time familiar faces, Jesse Thackeray. Welcome, Jesse.
Welcome. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
to have you here today.
Thanks. Well, you've been here for a couple of years. When did you move to Falls Church?
We came in August of 91. I mean, 41.
Oh, 41.
41.
Okay, 1941.
41, yeah.
Okay. And that was kind of a year that a lot of people came to Falls Church, wasn't it?
That's right. We had lived in, grown up in Kansas and lived in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And Franklin was working for the Department of Agriculture. And he had a chance to come back here and work in agriculture. So we came back then and stayed with some friends in Arlington while we looked around. Some way we wanted to come to Virginia. And we saw this place advertised for sale in the paper and came out and looked at it and decided that's what we wanted.
Was this like going out to the country?
Well, it really was, because there was a field between here and Falls Church. Greenway Downs had not been made by that time, and
So was Greenway Downs? That's the lower end of South Washington Street. Was that fields or was it woods or what was it?
Fields and woods. It was not developed,
Oh,
and except for the Robinson House, which was kind of the end of
now Marshall Street. Yeah.
Jackson.
It was then Jackson. Yeah.
And
right.
there was just kind of a mud road down to his place.
So was this the first house built on this
There
road?
were 3 houses, our house and one at one side Joe Driver lived in, and there was one over on the other side of us,
Okay.
but that has been torn down and is now townhouses.
Okay. Well, coming here in 41, I guess there weren't as many people here, but something happened. You guys got involved, didn't you, with the...
Quite involved, yes. It so happened our family, we had 2 daughters at the time we came, and our family we got ready for school, and all of a sudden we became very interested.
Sure.
And it was rather funny. We had felt that everything would be developed when we came back, and we were quite surprised to find that education-wise, that there was a lot to be done in Virginia.
Right.
And certainly there was in Falls Church, and there were quite a number of people that were interested in the same thing. So that was why we started working on being a city.
Now, when was that you started that?
I would say it started in 45, 46.
Right at the end of the war
Yeah.
then. Okay. And so you worked about 3 years on this then.
I'd say it was that, but it was when Falls Church had enough population, I think it was 5,000, to be a second-class city.
Well, who were the primary movers and shakers in forming the city?
Well, there were so many. I think of those on the school board. Bob Miles was one. Lou Olin was certainly one. And city officials, the mayor at that time was Mayor Orm. And there was June Bunnell. Well, quite
Just
a few.
a lot of them, right?
Just a lot
And
of
one
them.
was the two were you and your husband, right?
Oh yes, we both
Okay.
worked on that. Although
And I guess was it Walter Mess maybe?
Walter
Or
Mess was in.
how about Lee Rhodes?
And old Lee Rhodes did a lot
Yeah.
for that. And it was so many people.
Okay.
were involved in this.
So now, was the schools the only reason that you formed the city, or were there other reasons?
Oh, there were other reasons, and I suppose that as far as legislature was concerned, they needed other reasons besides schools, and financial and what have you.
Right.
And so when that went in, I'm sure that there were many other things involved. But the one thing we did ask for was our to be able to operate our schools.
Okay.
That was, we just felt we weren't getting the type of education that we
Right.
wanted.
Right. Well, that was a lot of work that you had to put into this, wasn't it?
There was a lot of work, yes, there was. Franklin was chairman of the charter committee,
Uh-huh.
and he spent many a long hour on that. That was quite a good committee.
You might say then that he wrote the charter?
Well, you can say he was sort of father of it.
Wow, the father of the charter of the City of Falls Church.
And I always enjoyed working with the schools.
Okay, so that was your primary love right there.
Yeah.
And what were some of the things that you worked on?
That, well, I first got on, when I was on the school board, I became, of course, very interested in that.
When were you on the school board?
Oh, I think it was about 62 to 70.
Oh, a couple decades later.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it was. But even then,
So-
we were interested in what the children were doing,
Sure.
and we were involved in school activities.
Sure.
Baseball and basketball games.
Sure. Let's go back just a little bit. When you came into town, what are some of your strongest memories or people? When you just came to town and or were here first couple of years.
Well, the first thing we did when I went in to pay our water bill so we could have some water here was I went into what is now the Women's Club,
Right.
and that was the town hall at the time.
So that's now next to the State Theater.
Theater, yeah, and that Mrs. Lester was one of the secretaries.
Oh,
and
she lived over on Maple Avenue, I believe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so I paid her for my water. And I remember she was so nice, and I was so glad I had come here. And we had some friends that lived here, the Salisburys, who lived on Broad Street.
Okay.
It's East Broad, and the Eisenhowers.
Oh, you were friends with the Eisenhowers?
And we knew them, yes, from back in Kansas State days.
Oh, okay. So
And
you were
the
over at
Aikens.
Tallwood then?
Yeah,
Were you there when
yeah.
they painted it white?
Well, I don't remember how.
Yeah, because it used to be brick when they moved in.
But we were all quite, good friends. And we had, in fact, as I remember, we were at the Salisbury's at a party, and the Eisenhowers were there when we found out that Dwight had been appointed chief of staff,
That's great.
and so that was kind of interesting.
That's exciting.
It really was.
You said you knew the Browns.
The Browns.
Like Brown's Hardware, Horace Brown.
Oh, yes.
Hugh Brown's father.
Yes, they were such nice people, both of them.
And you knew Betty Stiles and,
Betty
and her
Stiles
father,
and her
Sam
father,
Stiles?
Yes, they went to the same church. We started going to the Falls Church because one of the Salisbury's friends of ours went there, and so
Okay.
we did, and very glad we just stayed.
Well, you
We
know,
liked it.
the words that we use to introduce this show in each segment are extrapolations from the words of Betty Stiles.
Yes, that's right.
And her father was on the town council back just after the turn of the century, so you really had connections with
Yes.
a lot of the founders and the movers and shakers of the town, and little did they know that they were working with the movers and shakers of the city, you.
That is right. No, they were such nice people. We were glad we came to Falls Church.
Well, now 50 years later, after you've, 60 years after you came here and 50 years after you helped found the city, and you and your husband were you might say the charter members, right?
Yeah,
the charter members. What are some of your feelings now, after all these years, about having done that?
Well, it's a great feeling. I felt, you know, we all had dreams of things we want to do.
Right.
And our dream was to have a good city and a good school system. And we have.
Good.
I can look back and see all these wonderful things that we have done, and I find that people moving into Falls Church now,
Right.
many of them have to, after a while, get that same feeling.
It's just from what you started.
And from what we started, we
Wow.
go through ups and downs, of course.
Oh, everybody does. Everybody does. Yeah. What were now? What are some of the your favorite places around that you go to now?
Well, I don't get around so very much now, but we go out to eat every once in a while.
Oh, that's
and
good.
The Four Ps are our
Yeah.
favorite place.
Well, that's right. Where one of your favorite places used to be the Falls Church Bank.
That's right, and I remember when we came, and there was the Falls Church Bank, and across from that it was a filling station.
Right, a Texaco station.
And across Broad Street was Ware's.
Yeah, Ware's Drugstore, and
and
later known as the
Bra-
Falls Church Drugstore. Yeah.
And then Brown's was
Brown's,
over on
right.
the other corner. And it was a very pleasant place. The bank and the filling station were this beautiful rock.
The Tinner Hill Rock.
Yeah.
It's Tinner Rock.
And it was just a very comfortable place. I enjoyed it.
That's great. Well, we've changed a little bit. We're still pretty comfortable.
Yes, I think we are.
So you still love going to the village?
Oh, I still love it. I don't get there very much,
Okay.
but it's very, very nice too. And
Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
well,
Thank you,
it's
Jessie
been a
Thackeray.
joy.
Thank you.
Come again.
I will.
I heard music everywhere in town. A lot of folks had pianos and other instruments in their homes, and I could just walk up and down the street and hear people playing pianos and violins and singing. Some fellows were always sitting on the front steps of the stores down by the crossroads playing harmonica. Of course, there was music at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. A band always played at town picnics. One of my favorite things was dances at the Oddfellows Hall.
There really is music everywhere in Falls Church City, and we're very lucky because Dave Eckert's going to join us today here at the location of Peg Jones's house. Peg Jones is now deceased, but some years ago, Dave and I met at this very location, and we want to tell you all about it. Dave, you want to join us?
Sure. Hey, Jim.
How you doing?
Good.
Good to see you.
Well, it was about 4 years ago that we met. There's four of us, and you and Peg Jones and Jerry Press and myself to try to save the State Theater. Remember that?
I remember it, and as you know, the State Theater is now up and alive.
Yep, and we're really happy that that's happening. And but something very interesting happened at Peg Jones's house when we were trying to save the State Theater. It was back in 1993, and Peg was talking about the concerts she'd have in her house.
In fact, not only did we start the idea for the home concert series, but as you know, it's been a success ever since. And you want to tell us more about it?
Sure. Well, after we had our little powwow in there, and we got really excited talking about home concerts and how we could have concerts all over Falls Church in these beautiful homes like Peg Jones's house. And you know, with Fox's Music, know all these musicians everywhere. We've since for the last 7 years, we've had concerts, and about 14 a year.
And I don't think we've had any vacancies, have we?
No, every
has
concert.
It always been a sellout?
Every concert sells out.
Why don't we listen to some of this music? I know the 13th Street Sax Quartet is made up of 3 employees from Fox's Music Company, and one of them's my manager, and I know I'd like to hear his playing. What do you think?
Whoa,
Pretty
that
good,
was
huh?
great. Yeah, and I was there that night, you know, and you know, they started out playing classical, and
Yeah.
after that they went into jazz, and
Yeah.
really blew our socks off once they started playing some of the really hot jazz too. So they're very versatile, and this is actually the third time over 7 years they've performed for
Is
us.
that right? And I can't imagine 4 saxophone players at one time. But
Yeah.
who else we got?
Well, we also have, we can show to you, is the United Gospel Singers. That's Shirley Tinner, who lives up on Tinner Hill.
Right.
In the primary house up there. And with her group was an extended family group who've been together for 26, 27 years. And if you can imagine, 7 huge voices in a living room and with one piano. And here we go. We're going to listen to them now.
All right.
The angels, the shepherds were sleeping in their flock. The angels came, told them the message. We'll sing that same message today. You as children of God, those who love Him, those who are so happy that He came into this simple world. We want you to go tell it on the mountains, tell it on your job, tell it in your home everywhere.
Whoa! What do you think?
I was just so overwhelmed. When I went up at the intermission to talk about it, I couldn't talk.
I confess I don't know what we're charging now for the series, but isn't it a few dollars per show?
Well, Jim, the tickets are $15 in advance, and actually reservations must be made in advance. We don't even tell people where the concert is until after they've paid, because they are private homes. And in order to get information or reservations, call 703-532-0884. And what we have for the fall is the whole series is called Four on the Floor, because it's about quartets. On October 12th, we have the 13th Street Saxophone Quartet coming back again. You saw them a little earlier. What they're performing this time is called Sax in TV and the Movies. And what they're doing is they're playing original theme songs from TVs and movies in the first set. And the second set, there'll be famous classical pieces that later became movie themes. And you kind of guess what they are. And it's kind of very interactive and a lot of fun. That's October 12th. On November 9th, we have a well-known local jazz vocalist named Darcy Johnston with her quartet, oddly enough called the Darcy Johnston Quartet. And it's called Signature Tunes of American Popular Songwriters. And such songwriters as Cole Porter, George Nairo Gershwin, Hoagy Carmichael, Irving Berlin, and that'll be a lot of fun. And then the last one of the series, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, is called Lowdown Music. It's featuring the Paw Paw Bassoon Quartet. And I'm pretty sure that most people have never heard a bassoon quartet before. And they're even featuring a rare contra bassoon that's deeper than a normal bassoon. And they're playing a lot of classical and popular tunes that are pretty high-spirited, a lot of fun stuff, and it shows the range that the bassoon has. Most people think of a bassoon having a bass sound, but they also have a very high tone, and you get some very interesting sounds. So this will be a unique concert series. We're the only ones that I know of that really does the breadth of popular and classical and ethnic music. Most people who have home concerts just do like operatic music or special classical music or special folk tunes, and we do the breadth of it. So stop on by.
One of the most interesting things to me is that right in the middle of Falls Church, right in the middle of one of the fastest urbanizing areas anywhere, we have magnificent old houses and trees, beautiful music still in homes and on the streets, marvelous places to gather, and trails to return home on. It makes me wonder why these wonderful qualities of village life remain here in Falls Church.